Hi, and welcome to Emerson Theological Institute at City of Light, coming to you live from City of Light in Atlanta, Georgia. We're broadcasting from our campus located at 3125 Presidential Parkway here in Atlanta. It's great to have you with us, and I hope that you're all settled in for tonight's class on the Neville Reader. This is the spiritual writings and thoughts on the inner power to create an abundant life, written by author Neville Goddard. This exciting book is available. You can purchase it through Amazon.com. So if you've been reading along, I'm sure you found this to be really powerful and very enlightening. If you haven't, I encourage you to buy the book and read along with us for each one of our class sessions. Now tonight, this is class number 4, and it's entitled Visionary Fancy. It's all about that chapter on the visionary fancy, as well as moving to the next chapter on the moods. So if you have your notes, please take them all out and let's follow along. Our registrar, David Carter, sends out the notes every class day. So if you'd like to make sure that you're receiving notes, send us your email address. We'll make sure that you're included on those receiving class notes for each one of our sessions. Now let's prepare for tonight's class. Let's do so by centering our hearts and our thoughts. Let's just take this moment to quiet all the distractions of this world and everything that's been coming at us from this day and the day-to-day experience. Let's just release it all. We're going to do so as we take some cleansing breaths. So I'm going to invite you to please take a deep breath, breathing in through your nose, hold for a moment, and then really release it out through your mouth. This allows us to reset our vibration and to become more aligned and in tune with this moment, to the right here, to the right now. So we encourage you to join with us. Let's do these deep breaths. We're going to do 3 of them to make sure that we've just really brought about a fresh awareness. So join with me now, would you please? Let's breathe in and release. Deep breath in and release. Deep breath in and release. And in this moment of silence, would you set your intention for that which you desire to transpire in your life during this time that we share together? What's that desire? What's the intention? What would you like to receive? Let's just name that in mind. And so it is. All right, let's join together in our study. Are you ready? Hope you've got pen and paper ready, because we've got some exciting things to talk about tonight as Neville Goddard unfolds for us more on the power of imagination. And let's take a look at Visionary Fancy, this chapter in class number 4. The images of our imagination are the realities of which physical manifestation is only the shadow. Let's break down what the author's talking about. The images that we're holding in mind in imagination are the realities, then, of which any physical manifestation is only a shadow. It's a reflection, a shadow of. So we're holding in mind this image, and our realities, the physical manifestation, are these shadows of that which we're holding in mind. So if we are faithful to our vision, the image will create for itself the only physical manifestation it has a right to make. So the key here, the author is opening up with an important aspect of our visioning process. Are you faithful to the vision? Are you holding it constantly and consistently in mind? So that which you're visualizing through your eyes of faith, we want to make sure it's not wavering, not fluctuating, but consistent. And it is something that you're very faithful to in your visioning experience. You know how an object creates a shadow? Well, the shadow is the form of the object that's held in front of the light. Well, our reality is a shadow of what we hold in mind. The key is to be faithful then to this vision. Now, the Bible always speaks about unwavering faith, being faithful to the belief, faithful to the vision, faithful to the dream. How important it is that we just don't allow the physical aspects of this world, the five senses, to tear down or distract the faithful process we have in our visioning experience. So we're imagining something, and then sometimes the elements of this physical world, the five senses, something's, I don't feel this is right. It's probably not going to happen in what I see in the physical world and what I'm able to touch and sense and hear and all this kind of stuff. So that just distracts us, pulls us away from being faithful to the vision. Now, imagining is a spiritual sensation. So we invite you to enter into the feeling of the wish fulfilled through the spiritual sensation, through the use of imaginal sight, sound, scent, taste, and touch. So what the author here is inviting us to do is to really engage the five senses in a positive way. That when we are visualizing our health, let's make sure that we are holding in mind what it may taste like, touch, health might feel like as we touch, what it might smell like, the scent of health, the sounds that we might hear around us, that all encourage us in this faithful visioning. One example is a vision board, and creating the vision board of the wish fulfilled is really important. But as we engage these five senses in our imagining process, we take it to another level. So we're now thinking, I see my vision. I now just move to the place of I smell the vision. Let's just say where you're visualizing you're going on vacation, and you're just holding in mind that you want to manifest a wonderful vacation retreat. And maybe it's to the beach. So now you're suddenly holding in mind this visual that by faith, a way is being made for me to have this wonderful vacation experience. I feel I'm there now, and I smell the ocean breeze. I can smell the salty air coming off of the waves of the ocean. I'm so relaxed as I feel the lounge chair beneath me as I'm lying out there by the beach, and I'm laying out there and getting a suntan. And I can taste this wonderful tropical drink as I hold onto the little umbrella of the glass and I stir the ice cubes and I touch the cool glass and the sweat on the glass as I begin to take a sip of this refreshing drink on my vacation. You see, all these things add to the intensity of the visualization and bring us to a spiritual sensation. So it's really important that we begin to engage the five senses in every aspect of our visualization and our imagining experience. Now, the author shares a story of one who was faithful to the vision to the extent that he revised the conversation in his head. The author writes about a salesperson or a person going to a salesperson. When the salesperson said they didn't have the desired product that the person wanted, he went back in mind, in his imagination, and he whispered, "That's not what I heard you say." And he was so sure of his imaginary drama that it became his reality. And the physical, but a shadow of that which was held in mind, the physical became that shadow of what he was holding in mind. And so he just began to experience a shift. And so it was that the salesperson actually found the product that he was looking for. Another example, the person kept disregarding all that had been said and thought only of the words that they wanted to hear. So they thought only of that, I want to know that all things are working together for good, so I hold that in mind. And I hear this. I hear that everything is moving smoothly in my life. I hear someone saying the workmen are coming and everything's working together as I'm having a project done on my home. Or an example, I hear the nurse saying, your blood pressure is excellent and your health is good and you have had a wonderful and successful recovery. So it's about holding in mind these things that begin to shape them. That which we hold in mind is being produced in like kind. For that which we hold in consciousness becomes that which we create in our day-to-day reality. So faith disregards the physical facts of this world, and it works in the spiritual to manifest in the physical world. So eyes of faith, they look beyond the limitations. Eyes of faith say, I see the possibilities. I now taste the possibilities. I now hear the possibilities. I now touch the possibilities, etc. And I disregard all the physical facts that may be bombarding my consciousness or my thinking. The doctor may have said it's not possible. The contractor may say, I can't show up. The nurse saying, I'm sorry, your temperature and your blood pressure are accelerating, and your temperature, you have a fever. And so we're disregarding these facts, and we're holding in mind the health, the wholeness, the success, the prosperity, the love that we so desire within our life. So our future is in our imagining. It is a creative march forward. So every time we're imagining something, we're helping to create this amazing future that we so desire. So as we hold and utilize the power of imagination, the power of visualizing amazing things unfolding for us, we begin to shape this future, and it becomes the creative march moving forward in our day-to-day journey. So what kind of future are you creating for yourself? What kind of future are you creating through the eyes of faith, where you begin to see, not through the limitations of the five senses, but beginning to see all the possibilities in the realm of infinite possibilities in faith? I love this passage from Matthew chapter 7. Ask, and it shall be given unto you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be opened unto you. Imagining the wish fulfilled is really seeking that finds. And it is the asking that receives. And it's the knocking to which the door is opened. So when we imagine the wish fulfilled, it's already completed. We're imagining, I'm already on that beach vacation. That is the seeking that draws. That is the asking that receives. That is the knocking that really opens the door to this new reality that you so desire to be so. So it's important that we're spending time using the power of imagination, our great gift, an amazing gift that's been given to each and every one. We can use this imagination to visualize the possibilities that are unlimited for a day-to-day experience. Now, we're to master the direction, our attention. I have a question. Oh, excuse me. Let's stop for a moment and let's say, what's the question?
Holly Hill asks, to what extent can we imagine?
Holly Hill is asking, to what extent can we imagine?
And thus bring about a bright future for someone else.
And thus bring about a bright future for someone else. Great question, Holly. Thank you. So what we're doing is we're imagining, and of course, everything in life has to do with how we are responding to the scenario. So we're imagining for someone else. So how are you responding to the scenario that this person is going through? Let's just say, let's imagine for our kids. We as parents want to imagine the highest and best. So what we do is do this visualization work, where we're believing, and our response to everything that our children are doing is that we see the highest and best in it. Even though the physical may say, whoa, it didn't sound like the highest and best, didn't smell like the highest and best, doesn't seem like the highest and best, doesn't in the physical realm, but my power of a visualization is I begin to see my child in their highest and best. And I'm responding to everything that's happening in my life from this perspective. I'm at a high vantage point in consciousness. I've risen up to an upper room level, you might say, where I see this scenario. I see my child living out the highest and best in their lives. We can do that. And I think that's a great gift that we do as parents for our kids, that we visualize for them the very best in their lives. This opens up the door to creating a new reality for our child. So we become a component or a player in the unfolding of this new reality as we visualize it to be so. So our child may be making all kinds of decisions, but we're the one holding in consciousness the highest and best. We're acting from that. So we're speaking from that. we're living and responding to everything from that perspective, that influences the child's decisions. Sometimes it's kind of like, with our kids, you've seen those parents who keep calling their kid, you're an idiot, you're a failure, you're never going to be anything in life. And quite often that becomes a reality because they've been visualizing it, imagining it, speaking it into truth. So how about when we speak for our children, I see the highest and best. I see you successful. I see you achieving great things. I see amazing things unfolding for you. I see your prosperity. And so when you see that and hold that in mind, then every way that you're going to respond to your child is one of seeing the highest and best and responding to every scenario that comes to you from your child's life. You're responding from that perspective. I hope that makes sense to you. It's kind of like, a child comes home and maybe their grade isn't the best, but your word of encouragement says, I see you being very successful in school. I see you. I'm holding in mind, I already see this, that you're going to have some successful experiences in your educational years. You're going to have some great grades. So the parent speaks this. The parent instills this in the child and impacts the child's ability to see for themselves the highest and best as well. So I think that's really how it works in our lives, that the importance of us lifting up one another, building up the body of Christ, the scripture talks about. And we do so by seeing the highest and best for one another. It's really important that we call that highest and best out. So when we see our family, friends, co-workers interacting with people, always speak and visualize and imagine the highest and best for someone, and then give voice to it. Speak it and say, wow, I see you doing amazing things. I see great things unfolding for you. I see and hold in mind exactly that which you desire to see for them, and then speak it. Because this is the imagining then that has power to shape and mold and create your new reality. I hope that answers your question, Holly. If anybody else has a question, please feel free to type it in. Our multimedia people are watching the screens, and they'll just wave me down, stop me, and ask the question and share the question with me tonight. So that way we can have some great interaction. So if you have a question, I'd love to hear it. I am big about let's just stop whatever we're doing and let's experiencing the questioning and the asking, because that's how we'll learn together. We'll process things together. Great. Now, we're to master the direction of our attention. Use focused attention, intentional thought, to manifest your desires. Our consistent use of holding something in consciousness, holding it as if, controls the perception of how we see the events in space and time. So again, as I spoke earlier, it says we're consistently holding in mind our child's success as if they already are successful. And we control that, we sort of hold on to that perception as how we might see events folding, that there's success in every way. And we'll find that there is an unfolding of great success. Now, let me also remind you that success may look differently to us than it might to the universe. A lot of times I thought for my own children, I might like to see success unfold in a certain way, only to find that their personal success unfolded even in a better way, because it was really suited to them versus what I thought would be the right, or what success looked right or should be for them. So just know that success can come in all kinds of unique forms and shapes. And my son Jordan had all kinds of challenges as a young man. He went through lots of decisions that I might say were, not the best. And yet I saw success for his life. And I knew that something amazing was going to unfold for him. And I'll never forget the most powerful day in my life, really, as a father, was to sit at a table with his neighbors at the wedding reception, and then to share the stories of what a great dad he is. and how he's the father of the condominium complex, and how he's just, just such a great dad in the community to all the neighborhood kids. And to me, as a dad, I said, that's great success. That's really happiness in joy in my life. All right, another question.
So you let go of attachment to the outcome.
Yes, so we let go of the attachment to the outcome. Is that a question from you, David? Or is that from, yes, from David Carter. So we let go of the attachment to the outcome, yes. But we hold in mind that which we see as success. But you know what? God may have something even more powerful for us than what you hold in mind. So let go. Let's not be attached to the outcome, but just know that the outcome is there. That it, whatever it may look like, can be very amazing and powerful. Wonderful. Just hold on to that. Sometimes a feeling of sadness or depression wants to wash over our lives, and yet I know that I can live in a state of happiness. Well, what's the secret? The secret is living every day in joy. And what's the secret to that unfolding for us? How do we stay and keep in that joy? Well, it has to do with how we perceive people and the things around us. So again, how we perceive, we're holding in mind the perception is great success for our child. And that's going to bring the great joy of living every day. Now, everything is as good or as bad as one's opinion makes it. So we can look at some of the things that I look back and I think about some of my son's choices that weren't always the best when he was young, and realize, you know what, maybe those were some of the best things because they molded and shaped him to be the amazing person he is today. So I look back and I think, wow, I'm ever so grateful for the choices he made. Even though at the time I may have thought they were bad, and I was all stressed about it, maybe I should have just relaxed and chilled out and let go of being so attached to the outcome of that I desired, and just realize that he's on a wonderful pathway and he's unfolding amazing things within his life. And I encourage us to look at our world around us. Rather than always judging everything as good or bad, just release and let go any kind of attachment to the good or the bad, and just say, you know what? I allow it to unfold, and it's unfolding in the way that's going to bring about the highest and best. And I'm going to release any kind of sense of judgment around it. Is it good or bad? But it's part of this amazing pathway I'm on. So today's spiritual tip is to check your perception of life. That's right. Check how you perceive every scenario that you're going through. A change in perception will usher in the happiness you seek. So change the perception from, oh, this is a horrible day, to, oh, this is a day that's unfolding amazing things. This is a day that's unfolding all kinds of good things. Someone said to me, oh, isn't it a shame it's going to rain today? But isn't it a blessing? It's going to rain today and cool things down. Oh, isn't it a shame? It's so hot and the sun is just so intense and the heat is so high. Or isn't it a great day that the sun is nurturing our plants and helping things to grow, and nature is at work unfolding its highest and best because of all the wonderful sunlight we're receiving today. You see, everything changes when we check our perception of life. Now, the key is to change the image held in mind and thereby change the fact. This is the essence of that born-again experience Jesus talked about. Jesus said you must be born again. You must revise. You must begin a new thought. Be transformed by the renewing of the mind, Scripture says. So what we're experiencing is this change that happens within our lives, and it happens in our thinking, in our mind. I, as a pastor, have worked with lots of people who have come from more traditional fundamentalist backgrounds where they have held in mind, I need a born-again experience. I need to accept Jesus into my heart. Praying a born-again prayer to accept Jesus, asking Jesus to come into their heart was a lovely experience, but they never made a change. They just continued on living their life the same way. And they began to fall into the same traps and the same circumstances and the same pitfalls in their life. It's only when they begin a new way of thinking and embrace a new thought that they're transformed and they're renewed. And this is the born again experience. You may have been thinking this way, but you're now thinking this way. You may have been headed that way, but you are now repentant and you're moving this way. Repentance being that change of thought. It all begins with a change of the image that you hold in mind. You may have thought, I'm a sinner. And now you understand I am truly the beloved of God. So that change in mind is the shift that changes everything and brings about a new reality and thereby can change the facts of your life. Let's just look at the example of Jesus feeding the 5,000. Here's the opportunity for us to really understand that Jesus held in mind a different image than maybe what the disciples had. For the disciples came to Jesus and said, we've got to dismiss this crowd. It's late in the day. They need to go and find food. There's not enough food. And their image was a massive crowd and not enough. And Jesus turned to the disciples and asked, what do we have? Well, we have just some loaves and fishes, this little boy's basket, his little simple lunch. And Jesus held in mind a consciousness, a thought, there is plenty, there is enough. That became the new reality. As he broke the bread and blessed it and began to share, there became a bounty of 12 baskets left over after everyone was fed and everyone was filled. He held in mind a consciousness, an image of enough. And here's the challenge we have in a day-to-day journey. Quite often, we're holding in mind an image that there's not enough. And we're always embracing the sense of, well, the 5 senses tell us there's lack. We don't have enough. There won't be enough. There's not enough to go around. And we become just like the disciples in the story. That's why every Bible story is our story. And we put ourselves in every story as a character and see how it speaks to our day-to-day journey. So there's been days when we've been the disciples. And all we can see is there's so much to be done and not enough. There's so much to achieve and not enough. And all I can think of is in my image is there's not enough. And when we shift that and we now become Jesus in the story where he holds in mind, there is plenty, there is enough. Even the small that I take, even the small portion, even the few loaves and fishes I take, I break, but I hold in mind that there is enough and I bless it. And as it is blessed, it is shared in this context of holding in mind there is enough. Now, sometimes we try to force things in the physical world. When the power of imagining creates with great ease, why are we doing this? Why are we trying to force? Thoughts held in mind produce in like kind, and everything is in our world because of this creative thought. We find even in the passage of Scripture where the very Spirit of God speaks and says, let there be light, and so it is. There was light. Thoughts held in mind produce in like kind. What are you holding in mind is what's going to produce. It's going to match. So if you're holding in mind your great prosperity, it's going to be yours. And I'm going to tell you this. This is, again, as we started this chapter, it's got to be unwavering faith. You've got to hold in mind consistently. I can't imagine that in the story of Jesus feeding the 5,000, that there's a moment when his faith is wavering, where he's breaking them. Whoa, wait a minute! I only got this much. This is it. There's not going to be enough. But he was consistent. He went forward and broke the bread, blessed it, and gave and shared, and there was plenty. So what we know about this story is we don't know all the process of how Jesus fed, how did it go about. All we know is that what was held in mind produced in like kind. Let's move on to our next chapter. It's a chapter entitled Moods. Now, this is an age in which the mood decided the fortunes of the people, rather than the fortunes decide the mood, said Sir Winston Churchill. I love this quote. The author brings it out as he opens up this chapter and saying, this is an age in which the mood decides the fortunes. The mood, the way of thinking, the attitude, that what you're holding in mind, that very feeling is what's going to decide the fortunes of the people rather than the fortunes deciding your mood. And this is where all these wonderful Bible stories that are unfolding of prosperity and blessing are all centered about what was held in mind that produced in like kind. Let's talk about the story of the prophet coming to the widow and asking for her to make him a meal. And she says, but all I have is this small amount. And with this, I'm going to make a meal for my son and I, and we're going to die. She's a widow who has feeling a sense of, and in the story, I love this because all these wonderful nuances paint beautiful pictures. A widow being that which is without a husband. A husband being the symbol of source, a connection to a provider, someone who is providing for her, saying, I have no provider, I am cut off from the source, and so all I have is limitation. I have only this small amount, and this is deciding my fortune. It's deciding my future. My son and I, we will die. Now, here the prophet changes the whole scenario and says, but first, give generously, make a cake for me. And as she makes the meal, this story unfolds in such beauty that there's such prosperity for her that she is taken care of. And she has found a renewed source. So what do we find in this story that so often what happens in our life is that we are widows, spiritual widows. We've abandoned source, cut off from source. We're thinking that source has left us. We're thinking that our provider, our so-called husband, our father, in this spiritual analogy, is gone. And we've lost this wonderful connection. We're not acknowledging, wait a minute, I'm not a widow. I'm not without source. I'm not without something to provide, and that's the divine presence that is ever providing and ever making a way. So we begin to shake off this whole concept of being widowed, being cut off, being separate from divine source. So instead we see, wait a minute, I'm connected to divine source. Divine source is my infinite supply. And so what happens is the mood changes in her journey and it decides her fortune versus her fortunes deciding her mood. We often say we are happy when and because of achieving a goal. We don't realize that the process works equally well in reverse direction. That we shall achieve our goals because we've assumed the happy feeling of the wish fulfilled. So sometimes we're really happy. Oh, wow, I accomplished this goal. I run the race and I've got this trophy. And how about instead we assume the feeling of having the trophy and winning the race before the race even begins. And it helps us accomplish the success in running the race. So it's really important. What's your attitude? What's your mood? What's your outlook? Because when we look at that, are we feeling widowed, cut off, separate from, not having a source, not having a pathway of provision? Well, that mood, that shift, that puts us in a place of that we feel nothing but just great lack. So let's now move in reverse direction and let's feel prosperity. I'm prosperous. I feel blessed. I have plenty to share. I can give. I can bless others, for prosperity is flowing in me and through me. And from this happy feeling of this wish fulfilled, of the sense of prosperity, what happens is prosperity is now drawn and attracted to us. Again, there's that beautiful passage of scripture that says over and over again, to him who has much more will be given. To him who holds in mind the belief of prosperity, more prosperity will come. To him or her who visualizes and holds in mind health and wellness, more health and wellness will come. But to those who are living in lack and feel they don't have, there will be much taken from them. In other words, that they'll lose. So the more you begin to focus on I don't have, it becomes a downward spiral of I don't have, until you've got less and less and less, and you become like the widow just saying, this is our last meal. I'm going to make this meal and then we'll die. Wow. And sometimes we've just come to that place. I only have so much. This is all I have. I'm going to have just this little bit and then I die. Because that's the journey of thinking less and less and less and less, rather than thinking more and more and more and more, rather than thinking prosperity is mine, success is mine, love is mine, great blessings are mine. They're all unfolding for me. I see them now. And as I hold in mind the feeling of the wish fulfilled, well, it begins to attract the end result. Now, what we want to understand here is an idea, which is only an idea, produces nothing and does nothing. It only acts if it is felt and if it is accomplished by an effective state. This is the very creative process that we talk over and over in our classes, that an idea held in the intellect, and the intellect being a reference to the masculine, is now married to the feeling or emotion, the feminine, of it being real. And so we have this wonderful connection that takes place. An idea that's held in mind, in intellect, and now married with the feeling and emotion. It comes together. So the masculine and the feminine are coming together, and boom, you've got the creative power at work within our lives. We begin to say, this I know to be true, and this I feel to be true. And I'm embracing all of this together, and we're creating this powerful creative process. So capture the feeling and do it with such intensity that you are not vague about the feeling. You feel it already accomplished. Because, as we say over and over, what happens in vagueness stays in vagueness. That's a great quote from Edwene Gaines. We love her teaching so much and what she has shared with us. So we embrace that very thought. What happens in vagueness stays in vagueness. So let's not be vague. Let's be very confident. Let's be very true to the feeling of that which we so desire. So, I'm going to just use Ann Sears, one of our classmates here, as an example. Ann is, you're looking for a new dog. Capture the feeling. What does that perfect puppy look like for you? Capture the feeling. Oh, adorable. Can you feel him loving you and jumping up on you and licking your face and wagging its tail and so happy to have found you and you to have found him or her?
I even went as far as to imagine it playing with Harrison in the backyard and them having all kinds of pieces of my feet in my room.
I love this. So Anne is already imagining her new puppy playing with her grandson in the yard. And this is, again, the creative process that's at work as you have the feelings, the wonderful joy, the visualization, the sense of knowing that it's unfolding in a way that you can really feel the tangible, shall we say, and you feel it already accomplished. And we can't wait to hear what you've named your new puppy or your new dog, because we know that that's unfolding in a beautiful way for you. We're excited. We see it already. So faith is the evidence. This is so important. Now, faith is the assurance of things hoped for. It's the conviction of things not seen. Faith, therefore, is the substance of things that we waited for, the evidence of things not seen. The evidence is held in mind. The evidence is imagined, visualized, dreamed. It is filled with such conviction that you live then from the end. It may not be seen in the physical, but faith sees it already accomplished. So the faith is the evidence, the very conviction, the assurance, all these wonderful things, but it has to be held in mind. And how do we hold it in mind? Through imagination. So begin to visualize. As you go to prayer, begin to visualize, see the answer already unfolding. And then when you speak your prayer, speak in the affirmative. Speak, and so it is. Speak that this is how it's unfolding, or that it's already unfolded, even better yet, that this is the way it is. And that you're speaking of the evidence, the assurance, the conviction of that which is not yet seen in the physical world, but speaking and calling it forth to be so. And then your prayer is full of the affirmative, positive power. Because the answer to your prayer is always found in your prayer. When you pray affirming, when you pray with positive faith, when you pray with faith that speaks the assurance, the conviction, the evidence of knowing it is so, that's the answer. Now, when we speak a prayer that says, well, kind of maybe, God, are you sure? I don't know. If you're too busy, it's all right. What's the answer to your prayer? There's no confidence. There's no assurance. There's no real power of faith in that kind of prayer. So faith assumes. That's right. We act on the assumption that we already possess that which we desire. And I love this because this is really breaking down what is this thing called faith that we're called to enact, that we're called to demonstrate, that we're called to experience. Well, it's this power of assuming. We act on the assumption that it's already done. And this is the beauty that's echoed throughout the scripture as the Roman centurion came to Jesus and said, Jesus, you just speak the word, and I know that my beloved servant will be healed. I know my beloved boy will experience this the wholeness and wellness in his body. The assumption is it's already done because you just speak the word and it will be done. And Jesus said, never have I seen a faith like this in all of Israel. How beautiful that story is. The example is we just assume. Powerful faith demonstrated in that story. Now, in the Bible story of the healing of the man with palsy, it teaches this, that Jesus planted in his mind saying, get up, take up your bed and walk. Now, this is the story of the man who had been by the pool for 38 years, sick, waiting. As the tradition had been that when an angel came and stirred the waters, the first one into those waters would be healed. I love the metaphors here. So we often look at waters being symbol of consciousness and thought. The angel being that God thought, symbolic of those wonderful inspirations and thoughts that come to us. So the concept was, when a God thought stirs our thinking, when an inspiration stirs our thinking, the first one who comes in contact with that would be healed. I love that very thought because it's so true to our life as we welcome and embrace God thoughts, stirring our thinking, stirring us to believe and to stir up the faith and the assumption and the power of believing and seeing it as so through spiritual eyes. This is what happens. It engages in our healing. And what happens is the man was filled with all kinds of excuses. And Jesus said, well, first of all, do you want to be healed? Do you want to be healed? And the man had to decide for himself, I guess. Well, then get up, take up your bed and walk. The man then mentally acted as if he was healed. He already, that's what it takes. He began to rise up, assuming that he could stand. He began to rise up and lift up his bed, assuming he could pick it up. He began to rise up and begin to walk, assuming he could, because he mentally acted as if he was healed. So the actions of his imagination corresponded with the actions which he would physically perform were he healed. And he was healed. So it's that idea that when God stirs the thoughts, do you want to be healed? When the divine wants to stir our consciousness, would you like to be prosperous? Do you want to be successful? In stirring the waters, jump in and say, yes, I do. Well, then get up and go, and then act as if. Get up and be prosperous. Get up and be walking in health and wholeness. Get up and live your success. Get up and walk in this. Walk as if and live as if. Assume. Now, the mood of the wish fulfilled is really the high tide which lifts us easily off the sandbar of senses where we are stranded. Wow. Neville Goddard paints a beautiful picture there. Think about it. Quite often maybe our boat is stranded on the sandbar of senses, the physical senses. We're all caught up in there saying, my bank account says I'm not prosperous. My doctor says I'm not well. The world is speaking of all kinds of challenges and problems and negativity. And we respond to all that we heard, all that we see, and we're stranded on the sandbar of the senses. But the mood of the wish fulfilled is the high tide that rises up and lifts the boat off that sandbar and enables us to sail off into our blessings. Well, when we understand this, we know that the secret to the power of faith, the power of imagining, is what our mood affirms will come to pass. When we embrace this mood, this attitude, this feeling, it's coming to pass. And so it is. I know this to be true. It unfolds for us. We will take on the results of our mood about that which we desire, and it will unfold for us. We'll take on the results of this mood. Years ago, my daughter was in pageantry, and we were informed by her pageant director that the last minute she needed a few more outfits for this pageant week. Lots of appointments and appearances that the pageant girls would be making. And we were like, whoa, wait, we weren't prepared for this. And I didn't have a lot of funds available at the time to go shopping for all kinds of dresses and things for her. And, I was like, okay. But, as any dad, you want to provide the highest and best for your daughter. You love her. You want to see her have everything that she would desire. So we went to bed that night, and I woke up in the morning and said, I know where those dresses are, and I know where it is. Get in the car. We're going. And my partner, Robert, said, where are we going? I said, we're going to Ross. I said, Ross? Well, there's a Ross right here. No, we're not going to that one. Well, there's a Ross over there, 5 miles away. No, we're not going to that one. Well, where are we going? We're going to the Ross way on the other side of town. Why are we going there? I said, that's the place. We got to the Ross store. We pulled up. We were sitting in the vehicle, and I just said, Jillian, everything that you need is going to be in that store, and you're going to love what you find. It's all going to be wonderful. It's all going to be everything's going to be there. It's all working out perfectly and wonderfully for us. And for those who may have a more fundamentalist or biblical literist approach, I just said, and you know what? Jesus is going to help us. We went into the shop, and usually at Ross the store, when you're shopping, there's not always associates who come, sales associates say, can we help you? But on this day, there was a man who came up and said, can we help you? And I said, my daughter is looking for dresses in this particular size for special occasions and events. And he goes, well, strangely, he said, you know what? Everything is on sale. We're having a major big sale. And it just so happens that your daughter's petite dress size, well, we haven't had a lot of customers at this location shopping in that dress size. So we've got lots of dresses to choose from. We've got an abundance. In fact, we got lots of them at amazing, extremely affordable prices. And she went to the rack and she pulled out, wow. She went to the dressing room. We kept sending clothes in to her. Try this one on. How about this one? How about that one? And before you know, we found an amazing array of beautiful dresses and everything that she needed. And it was just perfect and right on budget. We went to the clerk counter to check out. And I was ready to swipe my debit card in and make the payment. And I looked up at the sales associate's name tag, and his name was Jesus. Jesus, and Jesus will help us. You see, what unfolds for us is these amazing things that happen when we hold in mind a mood, a feeling, an attitude. All things are working together for good. My prosperity is unfolding. My blessings are there. They unfold in beautiful ways for our lives. I know it firsthand. I've experienced it personally, and I invite you to do the same. Tonight's class is all about this power of us, understanding faith at work within us through imagination, through feeling, through setting the mood within, through the assumptions, through the expectation that says, I know it's already there, it's already unfolded. When we live that kind of faith, amazing things unfold for us. That what you're holding in mind is producing in like kind. All right, are there any other questions from anyone else out there? We have a few people who are joining us in our classroom tonight. Any other thoughts or questions or remarks? If you have some, please take a moment to type them in. We'd love to answer any of your questions. Now let's just hear a little bit of a takeaway from each one of those who are in the class. Steve, tell us.
I have a question.
A question, okay.
About what happens in Vagueness stays in vagueness. Are we talking about being really precise and specific in both thought and feeling, or more just in the feeling?
I think it's great. He says, what happens in vagueness stays in vagueness. We talked about that. When it comes to that, is it just holding in thought that we need to be specific, or also holding in feeling that we need to be specific?
Yeah, I mean, where's the importance? Is it in both? Is it in both the abstraction,
Yes.
the thought itself, being real specific, like, I like to have a better job or a better car, but it needs to be like this, or is it just, I don't know what job or what car, but I want this feeling to come with
Right.
it. And be really specific with the feeling.
Excellent. Let's incorporate both of those. So let's just say, first of all, if you're very wishy-washy and you don't know what you want, well, that's not helpful, because you need to be specific about what you want. But I also believe that it needs to be coupled with a feeling about what you want, because that really defines. I want a job, but just any job? Well, then take one at a fast food place. Oh, but I don't know. I don't want to work there. I don't want a career at a fast food place. Okay, so let's be specific. What kind of job do you want? What does it feel like? Well, I feel successful. I feel that there's a pathway for me to achieve. I feel like I accomplished great things. I feel like I'm making a difference in the world, you might say. So what is it for you? So you couple the specific thought with the specific feeling that are there. Now, quite often what happens is we're trying to say, are we saying, I want that job? And I want that job at, such and such a company, and I want to be the sales associate at that company. And I'm a firm believer in allowing the Spirit that knows even better than what we do to unfold this or something better. So I personally follow this pathway of just saying, I set in mind some specifics of what I want, along with the feeling, knowing that it may be this or even something better. I spoke today in a podcast this afternoon about purchasing a house. And that several years ago, Robert and I were looking to purchase a house. We found one. We thought this was going to be the best house for us. We were ready to put an offer, and the agent said, how about you sleep on it? Let's sleep on it, make the offer the next day. It was Saturday. I said, that's fine. We'll call first thing Sunday morning before church, and we'll, put the offer in. Let's sleep on it just to make sure we're confident. Called in the morning, and he said, oh, you're not going to believe it, but they already received an offer, and it's already under contract. Wow. I thought this was it. But a few days, we found what the Spirit was really unfolding for us, the something better. And I want to tell you this, that 3 years later, we've driven back to that house and sat outside in the car looking at the neighborhood and saying, wow, are we ever glad that this wasn't it? We had been thinking this is it, but we allowed the universe to unfold the something better. And we're looking at, well, look at the grass has grown up in the neighbor's yard, and they haven't taken care of it. And look at, there looks like there's flooding in the backyard. And oh my Lord, look at this house next door is falling apart, and no one's taking care of it. We're like, wow, we're so glad this wasn't the house, that we weren't stuck on saying this. But we held in mind, this is the kind of house, and it evoked the feeling. And lo and behold, we were looking at a tutor. And what do we find? An even better tutor. So you see how it unfolds for us is we're holding in mind the specific idea, shall we say, I want a job. Okay, we're really clear. And then the feeling that's going to unfold, you're really zero in on what's the feeling about this job? What does this job bring to you? What do you feel about when you go to that job? So then you may say, I would like it, this job as a sales associate at this company sounds wonderful, but this or something better. And we walk in with this sense of saying, it could be this, and this is good. But if there's something better, I'm also open to that too. And I'm willing to allow the something better to be there and not be so attached to the this that we just say no to anything else. We say no to allowing the universe, which knows even better than us. I love it if I let the universe choose the house for me, because the universe knew the right and perfect house. And we're so grateful. And I don't know, there's not a day that goes by that Robert and I don't say, aren't we glad? Aren't we so grateful? And every year on the anniversary of the sale, I sent a text off to the former owner saying, thank you. Thank you for selling to us. We're so appreciative. We just are so grateful for this fabulous home that we have. We just love it. You see, the universe knew exactly what we needed. The universe knows the desires of our heart before we even ask. So before we get so locked in on something specific that we get angry and disappointed and we say, God, where were you? And how come you weren't unfolding something great for me? And I thought this was my house and I was naming and claiming it. I wanted this specific house on this corner. Trust me, there's a lot of people who said the same thing about, I want to marry that man. I'm going to marry that man. I see that man. That man is my husband. I want that man. I'm working so hard on claiming that man is going to be my husband. And when we got him, they're like, oh, how can I get rid of this man? I want to get rid of him. That's not the husband I wanted. You see, because we got so locked in on something and not just saying, I know the right and perfect person is there as my spouse. I know it. And this is what I see as an example of what I like and what I desire. But it is coupled with a strong feeling that this beloved partner of mine is loving and kind and humorous and funny and compassionate and sharing and giving and is very generous and patient. And we couple all these wonderful feelings and we release that into the universe with great sincerity and being very specific about the feeling of what we desire that is shaped around the idea of what we desire, and allow the universe to unfold. And it's interesting to hear so many people who said, I've done that. And the universe brought someone to me that I might not have thought this was the right and perfect person for me. But they turned out to be just that. A spouse, a partner, a life partner that is just so amazing, so incredible, and meets every need of my heart and life. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Great.
Yes.
Thanks.
And that's my takeaway, too.
Excellent. Wonderful. Thanks, Steve. Someone else. David Carter, what might you have that you'd like to share, question, or takeaway?
My takeaway is that faith disregards the physical facts and focuses on the spiritual, the consciousness, and the assumption of the highest the best.
Faith disregards the physical, and it just takes us to a new dimension. What a wonderful takeaway, because we're just so locked up in the five senses and the physical world, and that just keeps us boxed in. But break out of that mold and allow infinite possibilities to be yours. And do you have a takeaway?
In chronic healing, there's what's called the Twin Hearts meditation, which I really liked it a lot, because you go into your heart space and you pick a happy feeling, and then you go into your head space and you pick a happy feeling. And then each time you feel it right then and there, and then you radiate it to a vision of Mother Earth that's in front of you. And that's the creative process.
Exactly. Anne's takeaway is talking about the Twin Hearts meditation that she's been taught, where you hold a feeling in the heart and you hold the idea in the mind and you bring them together, sharing them out into the world. And how beautiful that is when we hold a feeling matched with a knowing, we bring it together, this wonderful sense of creative power, and enables us then to manifest that which is the desires of our heart. Excellent. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We got one more? Okay. Two more. Okay.
Holly Hill says, our faith must be unwavering. We can't just dabble in faith and expect to see what we desire come into our lives.
Holly Hill's takeaway is our faith must be unwavering. Beautiful. And another?
Ty Thornton says, visionary fancy is holding your image consistent in mind, being faithful to the vision, not wavering in our vision. It is my takeaway.
Wonderful. It is truly the visionary fancy that our imaginations form and shape our realities. And if we're faithful to the vision, how beautiful that is. Being faithful to it can just This is Neville Goddard's passion. He's really trying to teach us the power of how faith unfolds through the consistency of that which we're holding in mind. And let's be consistent in the feeling, consistent in the knowing, bringing those two together, and we have creative power at work. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. I'm so glad to have you here at Emerson Theological Institute at City of Light. I'm Reverend Dr. Paul Gretz, and I'm inviting you to join us each and every week for these class sessions. You can also catch us on Thursday mornings at 10 a.m., coming to you live from City of Light. We're continuing on the Neville Reader, and that class is a few weeks ahead of this session. So if you'd like to join both and get a double dose, you're more than welcome to join us for this. As well as we invite you to be part of our Sunday celebration, 11 a.m. every Sunday morning. It's coming to you from City of Light, and we want to empower you with the wonderful insights of positive, practical spirituality. Now, if you've enjoyed this class, well, I invite you to offer a gift. Share something that just says, this is a token of appreciation for the wonderful teaching that's been shared, the truth that's touching my heart and life. Go to our website at www.cityoflightatlanta.com. You'll find a donate button there. Click on that and make your donation. Share your gift for Emerson Theological Institute. We appreciate your contributions. Your contributions enable us to do amazing things in the fields of education and bring about the unfolding of exciting truths like tonight's class. Thanks so much. I look forward to seeing you again next week or on Thursday or Sunday, whenever it may be that we can get together and connect through this wonderful vehicle of Facebook and YouTube. God bless you. Thanks for coming with us, and it was great to have you with us in tonight's class.